Hello everyone, welcome to Basically Netta. I'm Netta and this is my April wrap-up. So in the month of April, I read 5 books and they were mostly 3-star rated for me. I'm just going to talk about them in the order that I read them. So the first book that I finished in the month of April was Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I've never actually read any Jane Austen before, so I picked this up because of another book that I wanted to pick up, and that one's a retelling, and that one I finished last in this month, and I will talk about that later at the end. So, how did I like Pride and Prejudice? It was very well written. It had very well character building, and it just flowed the way that a romance should flow. But I just didn't like the dramatic parts, and I felt like it was lagging a little bit. For my taste anyway, I prefer to have some fantasy or magic and those kind of things in my books, and this was just a normal romance novel. But the only reason why I continued reading it was because it was very well written. And sometimes it's fun to read something that is well written. Just it wasn't my taste. So just take it with a grain of salt. It wasn't a bad book. It's very well written. It is a very good romance if you want to look into classics and read something that was written in the 1800s. So yeah, and then I picked up The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. My whole April was just like, okay, these are nice books, but not my taste kind of thing. And this is a folklore, The Spear Cuts Through Water is a folklore story told in second person. So you would think that would be my thing, since, Broken Earth trilogy is like one of my favorite trilogies, and The Fifth Season is one of my favorite books. But this just didn't work for me. It's like the main character, I couldn't understand her as a person. Like, I get where the story is going for, and it's very metaphorical. It's very dream-like story, and it being in second person, it makes it very more of like a storytelling book versus you reading a novel. But it just didn't work for me. I couldn't get into it. I read the whole thing, but it just didn't work. And I was just, okay, I guess Simon Jimenez is not for me. Maybe I'll try something else by Simon Jimenez and then see if it will work for me. But I feel like it's the way that this author writes is very metaphorical, and it's trying to tell you something within the story. And if that's what you like, pick it up. But at the time that I was reading this, that's not where my mindset was, and I was just not into this book. It is well written, I will give you that. Yeah, just not for me. And then the third book that I picked up was The Rune of Kings by Jed Lyons. This one is about this orphan boy who finds out that he's a prince. So the way the story is told is that the first chapter is the main character, and then the second chapter is somebody from his past telling us about the main character. So it goes back and forth, and there's a lot of information that comes from both the main character in his present and his friend who is talking about him in his past. So you have to just read the book one chapter at a time. And I had the physical book from the library, and I just couldn't do it. And then I decided to take it, my audiobook came in from the Libby app, and I was listening to that, and that still didn't work for me. So I just figured that this story is just too much, trying to do too much, in my point of view, in such little paces. Like, in one chapter, there's so much being told to the reader, and then it stops. And then you go into another chapter, and it's the past, and you're getting more information from that. And then it goes back to present, and you're supposed to remember what happened there. It's just very confusing. It didn't flow very well in my point of view, and I just couldn't understand the main character, like where he was coming from. If it was simplified and it was chronological, and we were reading it as okay, this story happened, this is the prologue, and then here's what's happening, and then, oh, I found this friend, and then she'd be like, oh, I remember what we did at this time, like those kind of things, that would work. But us going back and forth, it just did not work for me. I felt like I was reading something that had ADHD. I don't know how to explain it. It's just some kind of brain that goes on and on. It's just like your stream of consciousness, but it's not actually your stream of consciousness. It's an actual story, but it's not. If you want to get this book and read it, know that this is what's gonna happen. And there's two POVs, one in the present, one talking about the past of that person's story, and many information is being told. Like, a lot of information is being told in both chapters, and you're supposed to remember all of it, because then you'll be lost in the story. So yeah, I was just, yeah. Now let's move on. The fourth book that I read in the month of April was Chain Gang All Star by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. I'm so sorry, I cannot keep saying this word. Yeah, this is the story about, based on the American prison system. It's like people who are put into prison, they have to buy their freedom by fighting another prisoner so that they can move up higher into this gladiator-like game. And it's like Survivor, Gladiator, and a lot of reality shows put together, and you also get the perspective of what the public is thinking about these kind of games. And yeah, that's the kind of story that goes on, and it's in each chapter, at the bottom of each chapter, where there's like fact that the author has put into the story, a scenario that he had put into the story about an actual situation that is happening in the American prison system. Then he puts it in the footnotes and explains what is happening. So this book is very metaphorical in the way that like it's making everybody understand what is happening in the present day in America, and what do we really know about what's going on in any prison system that is there right now. It's very political in some ways, like the metaphors that we're seeing, and what does the public think about us? What does the public think about the prisoners and who they are and how they got there? It's a very well written book, very well researched book, and yeah, it was good, but it's not something that I would continuously read. It's not my normal kind of read. That's why it wasn't really like a 4-star or 5-star. I think I gave it a 3.5 because, you know, it was interesting enough for me to continue to read the story, but it is graphic, it is very violent, it is very like horrific as well, because people are basically trying to get their own freedom by killing other people. So it's not for the faint of heart. And then the last book that I finished in the month of April was Heartstone by L. Catherine White. This is the Pride and Prejudice retelling that I was telling you guys about at the beginning. This is a dragon fantasy, dragon riders book, and there is the romance, there is the entire plot of like the main parts of Pride and Prejudice is in this book, and there are these funny little green hobgoblins and little gnomes as well, who meets the main character named Eliza, and I enjoyed those parts where we're being shown her conversations with the gnomes and hobgoblins and even the dragons. Those were interesting, but what I didn't like was the fact that they specifically made it into an entire exact retelling of Pride and Prejudice. And the plot went so slow when we were just going through that plot. It would have made more sense if they had put in more of the interactions of the different creatures, different magical creatures with the humans. That would have been more fun. I think because of the author trying to make this exact retelling of Pride and Prejudice, it made the story lag. It's not as fun to read something that I thought it would be, and what it is not a full fantasy romance that I thought. I thought it would be more fantasy than the romance. And it is exactly like Pride and Prejudice, but the funny part was the hobgoblins and the gnomes. Why couldn't we get more of that? You can't have what you want all the time, I guess. And yeah, so those were the 5 books that I read in the month of April. Let me know down below if you've read any of them and if you like any of them. And what did you read in the month of April? Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe. and I will see you in the next one. Bye.